Caught in the game. The locker room was still buzzing from the adrenaline of the game. Zoe sat on the wooden bench, pressing a cold pack to her aching shoulder. The latest hit had sent her sprawling, courtesy of the opposing team's powerhouse, but the pain wasn't what bothered her. Across the room, Arya stood in front of her locker, pulling off her knee-high socks. Zoe tried not to stare, but it was hard to ignore Arya's muscular legs, glowing under the fluorescent lights. "You all right?" Arya asked, her voice full of casual concern. Zoe looked up, startled. "Oh yeah," she mumbled, shifting the ice pack. "Just a little sore." "You sure? That was quite a hit. Looked brutal." Arya's gaze lingered on Zoe's shoulder, but Zoe wasn't sure if she imagined the flicker of something more behind those gray eyes. "Nothing I can't handle," Zoe replied, trying to sound tougher than she felt. Her eyes traced Arya's movements as she started to peel off her jersey, revealing a black sports bra underneath. Arya had just joined the team this season, fresh out of college, and her athleticism had already made her the center of attention. And not just for her skills on the court. Zoe had been on the team for years, and while she had dated a few women in her time, it had been a long while since she felt this kind of attraction, especially for a teammate. But Arya was different. Her confidence was captivating, and something about the way she carried herself made Zoe's heart beat faster, much like it was doing now as Arya walked toward the showers. Zoe peeled her eyes away and focused on packing up her gear, willing the thoughts to disappear. She was too old for this kind of schoolgirl crush. Besides, nothing good ever came from mixing relationships with the team. She'd learned that lesson the hard way years ago. "Zoe, you coming?" Arya's voice startled her again. She was standing in the doorway of the showers, waiting. There was a mischievous glint in her eyes. Zoe hesitated. "I'll be there in a minute." Arya grinned and disappeared behind the door, leaving Zoe with a flurry of butterflies in her stomach. Maybe a cold shower would help with more than just her sore shoulder. When Zoe finally stepped under the stream of hot water, she found herself in a stall next to Arya. The sound of the water did nothing to drown out the tension between them. Zoe kept her eyes focused forward, trying not to imagine what was happening in the next stall. How Arya's skin glistened, how her hair might cling to her neck as she washed away the sweat of the game. "Good game today," Arya said over the water, her tone casual, but there was something in her voice that made Zoe's heart skip a beat. "Thanks," Zoe said, trying to keep her response as neutral as possible. "You played great too." "Thanks," Arya replied, pausing for a moment before adding, "So are you doing anything tonight?" Zoe blinked. Was this happening? "No plans, why?" "I thought maybe we could grab a drink? Celebrate the win." Arya's voice was closer now, as if she had moved toward the edge of the shower. Zoe bit her lip. A drink sounded harmless enough, but something in the way Arya said it made Zoe's mind race. She had to play this carefully. "Sure, that sounds fun." The shower ended too quickly, and before she knew it, Zoe found herself standing outside the locker room, waiting for Arya. They walked to a nearby bar together, making small talk about the game and the season so far. But Zoe's mind was only half on the conversation. The other half was focused on the fact that Arya had invited her out. Alone. At the bar, they slid into a booth in the corner, ordering a couple of beers. The atmosphere was lively, but Zoe couldn't shake the feeling of tension between them. Every time Arya leaned in to speak, every brush of her hand against Zoe's arm sent little shocks through her. "So," Arya began, her voice dropping to a more intimate level, "what's the deal with you? You've been on the team for a while now, right?" Zoe shrugged. "Yeah, a few years. It's kind of my second home." "I noticed," Arya said, her eyes locking with Zoe's. "You're one of the best players. Everyone looks up to you." Zoe felt her cheeks flush. I just do my best. It's the team that matters. Arya leaned in a little closer. It's not just your playing that people notice, you know? Zoe's breath hitched. She didn't dare look away from Arya's gaze now. What do you mean? Arya's fingers brushed against Zoe's hand, sending a jolt of electricity through her. I think you know. Zoe's heart raced. This was it. The moment she had both dreaded and longed for. Her mind flashed with all the reasons why this was a terrible idea. They were teammates, this could complicate everything. But before she could say anything, Arya's lips were on hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if Arya was testing the waters. But when Zoe responded, kissing her back with a hunger she hadn't realized was there, the hesitation melted away. Arya's hand cupped Zoe's face, her thumb tracing the line of her jaw, and Zoe felt herself leaning in, deepening the kiss. When they finally pulled apart, both of them breathless, Arya smiled. I've wanted to do that since the first practice. Zoe laughed softly, her hand still resting on Arya's. So have I. As the night continued, Zoe couldn't stop thinking about how right it felt to be here with Arya. Despite all the doubts that had plagued her before. Maybe this wouldn't be as complicated as she thought. Or maybe it would be. But in this moment Zoe didn't care. She leaned in for another kiss, and for the first time in a long time, she let herself enjoy the thrill of something new. The end.